Labyrinth of Toho closing video. Labyrinth of Toho closing video. Hey there everyone, this is LifeRake. Welcome to the, at least right now, planned end for the Labyrinth of Toho PDC playthrough. I have a rant to go on about this topic, but I did hit my limit with this game. And it's it's hard to pin, well, it's not hard to pin down, it's just, I don't like saying it. So, I'll give my final closing thoughts on the game right now, and if I pick it up later, we'll drop off back on Hibashi number 1 and Hibashi number 2, but I don't know if I ever will come back, so that's just a safeguard. So, I'm gonna give my final opinions, and we'll leave it at that. So let's start with all the characters in the game, and then I'll get on to characteristics about the game that I liked and characteristics I didn't like, and then there'll be a rant. I'm gonna start by going through the characters and telling you what I thought of them, and that's all there is to that, and then we'll just close off. And then I'll leave you with some Hearthstone footage and my rant about something, I guess, personal. I'll leave my subjective ratings of this game in this portion of the video, and the latter half will be more of a rant on the archetype of RPGs I do not like. So, or at least a trait of RPGs that I do not like. Not archetype, why did I say that word? Anyways, so I'm gonna go through the characters real quick, say I like them or not. I'm gonna ignore these two because they're part of the PDC, and mostly focus on these guys as they pertain to the main game playthrough. Alright? Alright, cool. Reimu was a cool character, very nice defense buff throughout the entire game, gets paired with Ikaria later. Reimu had the most usage of the across all the bosses. I think I've used her in almost every boss fight. She was really reliable. She had great skills to rely on. ESC really worked in the early game. It was really nice. Marissa had a big giant nuke, cleared the early game sets really well. Had a period of time where Mystic wasn't really good, and Marissa wasn't very good, and I kind of didn't discover that until it was a little bit too late, and then put Marissa back in because she was awesome. But Marissa definitely had her time to shine. Remilia was really reliable early in the game. Later on, I didn't like her so much because she doesn't have multiple target in an area, and her one attack is only one attack. It's just, I guess I got the tools later on to branch off of Remilia. Remilia was still very useful during bosses where single target damage mattered. I never used Sakya, so skip her. After the beginning of the game, I didn't use Patch. Patch is the type of mage in a game that I like using early on, but don't like using later on. Where early on you can kind of more easily protect them, and then later on you can still kind of easily protect them, but you have to play your cards carefully, and I'm not the type of person who wants to... I don't have that skill of when to come and when to leave, when to do an action. I want a little bit of leniency when I get hit, and Patchy doesn't do that for me. It's really hard for me to find time to slot her in, and though her magic is powerful, it just doesn't, sometimes it just isn't enough for me. I think the last time I used her was during the Tenshi fight where her defense piercing mattered a bunch. Chin was the most used character throughout the main game. The entire game was basically, hey, this is Chen, I'm going to tear through all the normal looks with Chen, and then we're going to win the game, and I really enjoyed using Chen because of that. Meiling was a reliable tank that I don't really... There's a part of tanks that I do and don't like, and I'll put this more on the latter half of the video when I talk about RPGs in general, but Meiling's just a tank, and if you've ever seen me use Dig Droids in Astronaut 3, there are certain types of tanks I like more than others. And Mei-Ling doesn't, like, Mei-Ling's the healing tank? The tank that is I don't know, the tank that is self-regenerating. She's good, I liked using her, but she wasn't my favorite. We'll say that, yes, that's pretty good. Cherno was my second favorite character, most used after Chen and Alice, third most used character after Chen and Alice, and I liked her. She was very, like, I think speed matters a lot, and that's where Cherno really shines, is at slowing things down, paralyzing the normal mugs, slowing the bosses down, having at least something for cold. Cherno, I think, is also one of my favorite characters in Toho, so I really wanted to use her a lot, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to do so. Minarika was a pretty mediocre healer, didn't use her later on, except against Yukari, where she got her one time to shine, her spot in the green and the limelight. I think it's called limelight? Yeah, limelight. So I'm glad I had her, but she didn't really seem too useful outside of that encounter. Yomu does a lot of damage, has a really unique mechanic that is really cool. Yomu can clean up normal sets just fine. He doesn't have much SP, so she can't stick around long, but I really did enjoy using her. That was bad sentence structure. But I'll say Yomu was a positive for me. Alice is the type of mage I am more fond of. So earlier I was talking about Patchy and how she wasn't really the type of mage I'm fond of. Alice is the versatile mage that I like more. I like an offensive mage that is versatile, and Zodiacs and most of the Atronauts mages do this, have this versatility, and, well, just about everywhere, because in Zodiacs you have access to fire, ice, lightning. You could use meteor, there's a lot of sorts of cool stuff you could do. So, like, and then Zodiacs also had that weird trait, and then all the alchemists have these weird traits, and it's traits that make them more diverse in more situations, and Alice is the more diverse mage. And I really like diverse mages that have a lot of choices and a lot of things they can do. Alice had debuffs on all of her attacks except... No, I think she has debuffs on all of her attacks. She has 2 attacks that hit physically with magic. I really like Alice. Alice is, I think, my other favorite character in this game. Rumia I really actually kind of liked using, especially during her Limelight stage where she was able to Dark Side of the Moon some enemies away where most other team members would just fall flat. And for Rumia, that's where I have respect for a character like her, a niche character that shows up once and does a few things. And Rumia is a likable character. She's darkness and she's hungry a lot. And she wants to eat human flesh. It's okay. Riggs is is an example of a tank I like. So much like, I'm gonna say, much like Kamashi, I think Wriggle is an interesting tank. Unlike Mei-Ling, she's not self-proficient, and I accidentally called Wriggle a he on multiple occasions because of the masculine name, but Riggs is an example of a girl who has a job, one easy job. You inflict poison on the enemy once and you run the hell away, or you sit in and tank for a bit before you run away when it's safer for someone else to come in. Riggs is an example of a tank that comes in, goes out, comes in, goes out, comes in, goes out. Inflicts poison and something gets out. And Butterfly Storm isn't a terrible attack, it just doesn't do much, but hey, it's something, and I like tanks that can do other things. So, Riggs gets respect, along with Kamashi, which we'll talk more about later. Yugi is a sore spot. I like Yugi because physical character good and physical tank good, but mine bad. I guess I used her a bunch, but I don't know if I really enjoyed using her. She was... I really liked her damage output. 5 steps is really cool. Has a small element of defense piercing to it that makes it really nice. But otherwise, and a huge attack stat that's really impressive, but otherwise I'm not too impressed. Io was very useful for me in mid-game, early game, where I used her speed buff a bunch, and I thought that was cool. And I still think Io is cool, because even versus, like, some of these PDC bosses, she's been alright. Iku's a buffer, and has a little bit of defense debuffs on her, and her Orphish attack. So much like Wriggle, she has some weak attacks she can use on the side that does this very specific purpose, but she also has a buff that is really, really, really good. And I think mastering the use of Iku's buff is really important in this game. But it's not like Ron, where you can buff everybody. And I like party buffs, I like the troubadours, I like the princesses, characters that buff a lot of people at the same time, even if the buff's weaker. I think in this game, single target buffing is better, because, well, at least to an offensive tune, single buffing is better, like Iku, and at least in a lot of cases it seems. But Iku's just a cool character. Probably is from the game I have least familiarity with, the ones with Tenchi, Iku, and other Celestials. So I don't know too much about her personally, but I think she did well in this game. Kamashi's the most interesting tank in the game. I didn't think I'd like her at first because it was Wailord stats, but then I realized elemental affinities matter, so it's a lot when it comes to damage reduction, so Kamashi actually can serve a tank role very nifty. She also has Narrow Confines of Ivishi, which is an amazing skill, and otherwise, good character. Soko was a straightforward damage dealer that doesn't really do... It's my opinion of gladiators, basically. Characters that do a bunch of damage and do not much else, and that's Suiko's job. She has that one paralysis move that I never used, but other than Sunai is a cool character that I didn't use throughout the main game, so I guess we skip her. PDC, I think she's really nice, but main game I didn't really use her too much. She was an okay healer. I used her during the Flan fight. I don't think she did anything. Another reason also in the same camp as Sanae where same camp as Subako, where she was pretty straightforward and usually only used gun to do lots of damage, and that was it. Ran is an interesting buff character, so like Reimu and Iku before her, buff characters are very unique, and Ran is even more unique in that her buffs are party-wide, so including not only your 4 characters, but also all the back of the buffs. This allows you to pump up characters in the back, which I think is really cool, so you keep Ran alive and make her move faster. She gets more use, and that's why I like using Ran over Iku later in the game, even though I'm sure Iku was more efficient. So it's inefficient, but I really do like the idea of Ran's buffs, and I really liked that I could make at least somewhat good use of them. Raisin was pretty much never used except for grinding off screen. I think I tried her a few times, but didn't really get too far with her. I'm gonna say she's a good character, but I don't have too much experience using her. Likewise with Aaron, same opinion as Raisin. She had her uses, I guess, with Mercury Sea, and the Moku fight. Outside of that, I don't think I used Aaron too much. Tenchi is another tank. Tenchi is the invincible type of tank that has low HP but just takes no damage. And that's cool, except there's a myriad of defense-piercing attacks in this game that make that pretty hard to take advantage of later on. I'm gonna say Tenchi's still a really cool type of tank, and probably has some extreme applications, but it's a more niche tank than the other tanks I've encountered, and that's good. I like Tenchi. I like her design. Moku's just another mage. I like comparing her to... I think having a fire mage is okay. Her other attacks... Like, when I first got her, she wasn't really good at all. But I'm starting to warm up to, like, how you can use her. But that's PDC, and for normal playthrough, I didn't really get to use Moku too much to an effect that I thought was desirable. It took until the 19th and 20th floor for me to use her regularly, and when I did use her regularly, I thought she was a lot of fun to use, but she was dead for a few floors, so oh well. Flan is my favorite type of glass cannon. The blast cannon that goes all out and does a crud load of damage, and if she somehow lives quite a while, she just basically decimates the enemy's HP pool. It's just a nice character, I love her. Chin 2.0 has a few advantages, like a composite fire attack that actually does work, and a few other things, but Kaguya is a defense-piercing mage. I didn't use her too terribly much until the end, mostly because you didn't really get her till towards the end. She's a really extreme mage, so in the same camp of Patchy is good, but not one I really like using. Suika's another type of tank. She's the mine tank of all the tanks, so Suika has high base mind and lower base defense. So you keep her mind high and use her buff, and suddenly she has well-rounded defenses and a well-rounded offense. Her offense isn't as good as other characters, but her offense is good enough that I think I really like using her. Even if she did seem some hard fits and didn't do enough damage at the times I used her, she's the type of character I like. The 2-turn setup of use a move and then you can start doing stuff, and that's nice. Yuyuko has access to death, but I never really used her during the main game. No, yeah, I didn't really use her too much. I think I tried her at first and I was like, this doesn't proc often enough, then So main game, Yuyuko, probably not the best, but I think I'll say she's okay. The main reason she's not really that good during the main game is because she's too slow. And you really can't fix her speed problems until later. Kari has defense buffs and is a really nice character. I really liked using her. Paired with Reimu for the ultimate defense that you kind of actually needed in order to even just do stuff. So she also had that cool attack that let everyone move first. I didn't take too much advantage of, but Yukari was a really solid character for the time I used her. She's very centered around being used in boss fights, and I think that's okay. There's a lot of characters that are only used during boss fights, so. And Renosuke is gained near by the end of the game and didn't use him against any bosses, only to help me grind, so that's it. That's the 4 main pages of the main game characters, and that ends my segment on the main game. So now I'm going to move on to a 7-minute rant about other things. So closing thoughts on this game first, and then we'll move on to the rant about other things. So closing thoughts. Main game was really cool. Post games being quit. Well, PDC post game. I'm going to call them the same thing. But I like the main game experience, but it got too much for me for the PDC, and it's just not that fun anymore on the PDC. But the main game I thought was a lot of fun, and I think just going as far as the main game is a good enough experience for those weird people who are watching this last, even though this is pretty much the most spoiler-free episode of all of the episodes, except for, all the character unlocks. Like, haven't even mentioned other bosses by name. What the heck, guys? Yeah, closing thoughts are, the game is good. The game's really cool. I like it. It's a good game. I don't really, personally, think it recommend going past the first 20 floors. This is probably one of the most well-designed Touhou fan games I've ever played. I haven't played very many fan games, though, so I don't know how fair that is. I'm going through Genius of Sephiroth and Labyrinth of Touhou 2 off screen, and I think those are brilliant. I might do Lot 2 Labyrinth of Touhou 2 someday, but I'm kind of halfway through that game already, and it's just, Jesus, Labyrinth of Touhou 2 I think is a lot cooler, but Labyrinth of Touhou 1 is solid, and I won't take that away from it. Anyways, I think that was closing thoughts, so time to go to a more general rant about, no, I just may as well do that sometime else. Maybe as a video after this one, but that's my closing thoughts on this game. I'm not going too much into the reasons why I'm leaving Labyrinth of Touhou in this video, so even though this is, but I'll go more into that on my overall, when I talk about RPGs in this rant video coming up, that will more rightfully explain why I don't want to continue playing Labyrinth of Touhou, so Hey there everyone, this has been Laverick. As always, I thank you for watching. I know this series ended off on a weird note, and maybe not the most, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but probably not the best way to end it off, but or at the right time, but I don't feel comfortable anymore, so. Hey there everyone, this has been Laverick. As always, thank you for watching. See you guys next time, bye.